The goal was keep tenants in their homes. It just sounds great. The problem is people breaking and entering and just squatting. The law says I can go into someone else's property and call it my own. I'll just stay there and wait until I get evicted. It's like there's a new moratorium in and of itself. They're not calling it a moratorium. They're just calling it the new just cause for eviction ordinance.
The issue of high rents contributing to an increase in squatting is indeed a concern in many communities across the United States. As housing costs continue to rise, particularly in urban areas, more people are finding it difficult to afford rent, leading some to resort to squatting as a means of shelter.
One survey shows more than 1,000 homes have been overrun by squatters, including some convicted felons who are taking advantage of loose eviction laws.
Squatting, the act of occupying abandoned or unused property without the owner's permission, often arises as a response to economic hardship and a lack of affordable housing options. While some squatters may view it as a temporary solution to homelessness or unaffordable rents, it can also exacerbate tensions between property owners and those seeking shelter.
On the 3rd of December 2023, officers in Dayton, Ohio received a call from the owner of an apartment complex. According to him, multiple drug addicts and squatters were occupying his home and refusing to leave. When he confronted the squatters, one of them pulled a gun on him.
The problem homeowners face with squatters is that if the squatter manages to stay in a home for a certain duration, they can gain certain legal rights. This is called adverse possession, which is a legal principle enabling an individual to claim ownership of land under specific conditions, even without the original owner's consent. This usually happens when someone openly, continuously, and exclusively occupies another person's property for a designated period, which varies depending on the jurisdiction.
Squatters took over this Atlanta home a day after the owner put it up for rent. Robin Rinker-Cook says a woman inside presented police with forged lease documents, which prevented them from getting involved. So the owner offered the squatter $750 in cash to leave voluntarily.
In many cases, buying out tenants can be the only legal option to remove them because it provides a mutually agreed upon solution that compensates the tenants for vacating the property. In some cases, tenants may have legal protections or rights that make it difficult to evict them through other means. Offering to buy out their tenancy can be a faster and less contentious way to regain possession of the property while providing the tenants with fair compensation for their relocation.
The law says even a tenant that regains possession of a property like that, or perhaps breaks in a property, you can't do anything to evict them unless you get a court order to do it.
I said, I'm calling the police. He said, okay, go ahead. He seemed to know the system much better than I did.
They took my $4,000 bike, put it in the backyard, and tried to tear the locks off of it yesterday. I said, hey, y'all not allowed to touch tenants' property. If you know the law, you have to have a court, to have a sheriff escort stuff out. You cannot touch my property.
I know, but if a house is condemned, it's a little bit different.
No, upstairs. Well, the bottom is not condemned. There's nothing wrong with the bottom. Oh, the electric bill, the water bill, the gas bill, everything works. It's in my name. You know what I'm saying? Everything. I got current bills. I just showed the police that just left. 3 police officers just left. Bill? Yeah, it's in my phone. I got it all to my email. I got all the current bills in my name.
As you can see, dealing with squatters on your property can be legally complex. Steps to remove them varies by location. Therefore, consulting a property lawyer before taking any action is advisable.
I have a client in the city of Oakland who purchased a multifamily unit, right? Someone broke into the property, like shattered windows, broke in, and this occurred over about a 24-hour span or something. My client found out about it the next day, and I guess these people were using drugs and narcotics, all kinds of illegal things. They were just ingesting illegal substances in the unit. And so my client calls the police. The police aren't a help. The city isn't a help. The advocates aren't a help. The mayor isn't a help. It's just you and your property and your tenant.
I called 911 and it was busy. I repeatedly called for several hours. I never got through that day. The next day I called. I finally got 911 on the phone, told them what happened, and they said it was 240 calls ahead of me. Next day, 190 calls, me waiting in front of my property 4 hours, 6 hours, sometimes up to 7 hours for the police not to show up.
It's very clear these people have broken into the property. She has a Ring camera that recorded them breaking into the property, and the police come and they basically tell her, well, you know, do you have an attorney? She says, well, I have an attorney, but he's not very good at removing tenants. Physically anyway, right? That's the police's job, right? I can go up to a judge, but the police, they're law enforcement, right? They enforce the law. And so they look at her and they look at the property, they see that she's the owner, she has the deed, and they say, you know, I'm sorry, but the only thing we can do is advise you to get an order from a judge to have these people out of your property. And so she asked the question, well, do I have to keep, you know, paying the utilities? Do I have to keep the water on? Do I have to do all these things? The answer is yes.
My court date is in the last week of this month, and basically, you probably have to pray for me. I didn't know I was going to have to evict someone who had burglarized my property.
If you anticipate your property being vacant for a while, it's wise to take steps to prevent squatters. Keep your property safe by regularly checking it to ensure nobody is living there without permission. Use strong locks on doors and windows, and consider adding extra security measures like deadbolts or bars. Keep the area well lit with motion sensing lights, and install fences and lockable gates to keep intruders out. Think about using alarms or cameras for added protection. Maintain the outside of your property to make it look occupied. Learn about local laws and seek advice if needed. Keep in touch with your neighbors and watch out for any suspicious activity. Lastly, keep detailed records of property ownership and any notices you send to squatters, just in case you need them in the future. Laws on squatters' rights differ by jurisdiction, so understanding local regulations is crucial for your safety and legal compliance.